Say what you want about Kerbal Space Program 2, but at least it made Dres interesting. Or at least interesting-er, compared to the boring grey mun wannabe that we had in Kerbal Space Program 1. Seriously, I know it's a meme, but I genuinely often forget Dres is even one of the planets in the Kerbal system, because it's so boring. It happens to have a massive canyon, one of, if not the, coolest geological feature in Kerbal Space Program, but even that doesn't really negate the fact that Dres itself is boring, and takes far more Delta V and unexpected difficulty to reach to justify ever really going there. KSP2, on the other hand, it had a more vibrant colour scheme, had much grander mountains and canyons. It was just a shame it happened to be part of the disaster that was Kerbal Space Program 2. Now, I've been wanting to build out some infrastructure on Dres in support of interplanetary wormhole expeditions, but I don't know, it's kind of such a dull place to put a series around. Until now, that's right! Thank you so much to those of you who let me know about Proxima's Better Dres mod. It's a simple but incredible one. It replaces the stock Dres with a new one inspired by KSP2's Dres, featuring more exaggerated mountains and canyons and a set of small yet beautiful rings. And it features 8K textures and parallax support as well. Downloads in the description as always, as well as a link to this video's craft file, which I'm currently assembling right now on screen. If you're watching this via Patreon or my YouTube members page, sign-up links can also be found down below. But yes, that is where we're going today. We're going to visit the new revamped Dres, which is obviously part of Proxima's Better Dres mod, and we're going to begin the setup of my grand Dres system colony thing. So that's going to include, in the future, mining facilities on the surface, as well as an orbiting space station, and, you know, better access to the wormhole that will take us to interstellar destinations. So, yeah, I kind of talked over the first part of this build. Basically, I put together this sleek little 6-wheeled rover that are now attached to the side of what will eventually become the Dres Lander. I kind of tried experimenting with a few different, well, when I come up with landers at least in stock Kerbal Space Program, I always try and come up with kind of new quirky designs because it is kind of easy to get stuck in a rut building the same sort of thing every single time. So I came up with this little design, which I thought looked quite cool. It's got this like monolithic cone structure at the bottom that's going to serve as our landing base. I really don't like landing legs in stock KSP because you just slide around so much. So I really like using grip pads, which are those round pieces there. As the name would suggest, when they're in contact with the surface, they anchor you in place pretty well, much better than the landing legs do. You know, the name is grip pad, so you can probably guess, you know, why that is. I then came with this little idea, putting these big solar panels inside the cargo bay hatches of the upper landing pod. Thought it looked quite nice. So that's the Dres Lander there. Now we're going to construct the mothership. So first of all, we have our re-entry module. And this is kind of a blink and you miss it type thing, but the re-entry module consists of the Apollo-style command pod, and then like a 2-seat lander cam below it, and then with a 2.5 meter diameter heat shield underneath, because we're going to be taking quite a lot of Kerbals. We've got 4 Kerbals to go down to the surface, plus we're leaving an extra Kerbal in the mothership, Apollo-style, so we kind of need a lot of seats on the re-entry module. Now, some of you might be concerned that, well, actually, Matt, the lander cam, it actually juts out slightly beyond the radius, or the diameter, I should say, of the 2.5 meter heat shield. So it's going to get exposed to the heat of re-entry. And I'll say, don't worry, my friend, because I've used it in the past, and it's always been fine. The 2.5 meter heat shield sufficiently shelters the 2-seat lander cam. But as it turns out, I might have been misremembering, or this might have been some sort of update that changed that. So that was a big design flaw with this craft file. So if you are a Patreon member or a YouTube member, maybe consider not downloading this craft file because it had a bit of a fatal flaw. Now, don't worry, this mission does have a happy ending, but let's just say, twists and turns are to be expected throughout the video. So I hope you enjoy. As for the rest of the rocket, it's all kind of just done. I mentioned earlier, you know, Dres, one of the reasons why Dres, I think, is broadly, I don't want to say disliked, but I guess the reason why everyone is so apathetic towards Dres is because not only is it a boring destination, but it's actually quite difficult to get to. It takes a very surprisingly high amount of Delta V to reach because its orbit around the sun is just so high. It's higher than Juno's orbit. So you kind of need a fairly big rocket to get there. Now, speaking of getting to Dres, for once, I'm not going to eyeball it. I'm going to use a Kerbal alarm clock to tell me where to time, or how long to time warp to get a Kerbin to Dres transfer window. There's the little readout there. Oh, less than a day, 40 minutes, 35 minutes to go. I think that's close enough. But if you wanted to eyeball it, like I usually do, because I don't know, seems like it's less effort, I guess. You can use the kind of lens flare of the sun, then draw a line from Kerbin to the sun to Dres. Dres needs to be, I think it's, just glancing at my notes that I wrote down, 82.1 degrees ahead of Kerbin. There you go. I don't even know it by heart. That's how infrequently I visit Dres. Now, look at those beautiful volumetric clouds. I guess the deferred rendering, courtesy of the latest release of Blackrack's mod there. And there is the rocket on the launch pad ready to go. And we are off on our journey towards Dres. Now, a couple of things I should probably mention as well about the design of this rocket. First of all, we have the capsule at the very top. That's the launch abort module. So the Kerbals will sit in that for the launch, and then if there is a launch failure, they can just be ejected to safety and not left imprisoned inside the fairing. Now, you might have noticed, Matt, but there's only 3 Kerbals in there, and you're bringing, 5 Kerbals on this mission. And to that I say, yes, I forgot that I was bringing 5 Kerbals with me when I designed that part of the craft, and so only 3 Kerbals are in there. And I didn't even notice when I was populating the craft with Kerbals. So that's how, how attentive I was when constructing this. I also noticed that I've put only the female Kerbals inside the dangerous pod, and the male Kerbals are the ones in the safe pod. I don't know if that's that's not. I'm not trying to make a statement here. That was a mistake. I respect. Please don't cancel me over this. I'm just saying. So, but don't worry, because ultimately this is all just for show, right? Okay, because we can revert the flight if anything does go wrong. It's just a nice little quirky thing I added because I thought nice little touch to the rocket. But we're about to finish burning with stage 1. There we are. So I'm going to just point us prograde so that when it detaches, it doesn't clip through the engine of the upper stage. There we are. Seamless detachment as we continue our way to space. Now, the other thing in this craft file I should probably just address is underneath the escape module is kind of a big satellite that's going to be placed into Polar Dres orbit. Like I say, the reason why I wanted to install the Better Dres mod in the first place is because I wanted to do like a mini-series in which we build out lots of infrastructure on the surface of Dres so we can have a permanent kind of colony in orbit around Dres. So basically, I've got the Promised Worlds Interstellar mod installed, which adds the Deb and the Tune system, which were the promised star systems for KSP2 before, that game got canned. And there's a wormhole in orbit of Dres with this mod that you can just go through to get to those interstellar systems. I thought it'd be kind of cool to build a little space station with loads of refueling bays so that your interplanetary vessel could just fly to Dres and deplete most of its fuel, then completely refuel in Dres orbit and then go through the wormhole. And there's another station and thing on the other side where it can refuel again. So there's got to be a mining base on Dres to keep the space station constantly supplied with fuel, and then on the other side of the wormhole there'll be a space station, another mining base on some planet or moon that I forget the name of at the moment, in the oh my gosh, what's it even called, the Deb system. And yeah, I thought it'd be kind of a cool little thing to do. It's not gonna be a super long series, right? It'd be I don't know, so next episode could be building the space station and the mining rig, and then I guess that would be it, actually, wouldn't it? So it's not going to be a super long series. But anyway, the reason I'm even telling you this is because I learned the hard way that mining isn't always very quick. Last week I went to Laythe using a mining ship, and it took 50 years to refuel itself on the surface of Mimnus because I just landed literally anywhere. I didn't pay attention to where I was landing, and I landed obviously somewhere with very scarce ore. So we have a satellite on the front of this vehicle, because the purpose of this mission is not just to check out the new revamped Dres, it's also to insert that satellite at the front of the vessel into Polar Dres orbit, and that satellite can then scan Dres and find all the best places to mine for ore. So that's kind of the main, I guess that's the main purpose of this mission in the canon of my Laon Aerospace space agency, but also I kind of wanted to showcase this mod because I do think Dres is a real area that could be improved, and Moho as well. Moho to a slightly lesser extent because Moho is closest planet to the sun, right? And it's got the Mohole, so kind of cool, but yeah, it does have the Dres problem of being a little bit boring. I'm not sure why I don't consider Eeloo to be part of this group. So I think Moho and Dres are a bit too boring. I don't think Eeloo is too boring, though. I quite like Eeloo. Maybe it's because it's the furthest planet from the sun in stock KSP, so it kind of has that little thing oh, it's really far away, so it's got that kind of challenge associated with it, or at least for a new player, it seems more challenging, even though in reality, I think both Dres and Moho are more difficult destinations to visit, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, well, I guess Parallax Continued, which is Games Links' latest mod of the Parallax line, I should say. That makes Eeloo look really, really cool. It makes it more in line with KSP2's Eeloo. Kind of a theme, isn't it? The Dres in KSP2 was way better than Dres in KSP1, and Eeloo in KSP2 was way better than Eeloo in KSP1. As you would hope in a sequel, you would hope things to be better. But apart from the graphics and the sound design, nothing else really was better in KSP2, and obviously now the game is never going to get finished. So, you know, at least modders can now take what was good about KSP2 and slowly start adding it to KSP1, just like the Promised Worlds mod, where it adds things like Deb and Tude, which is going to be, that's what this whole little mini-series is in service of, right? Me building a little station in Dres orbit that can keep interstellar vessels supplied and all, like, you know, fully fueled and stuff. It's going to be a fun old time. One thing I should mention as well, you can kind of see it on the map screen, it's very faint. This mod adds a small little ring system around Dres. I know Dres has a ring system in stock KSP, but it's not as visually nice as this. Like in stock KSP, Dres has like the Drestroid ring. Drestroid ring is basically an asteroid ring around Dres. But it's just called a nickname, the Drestroid ring. Or maybe it's a canon name. Does the game ever actually refer to it as the Drestroid ring? I'm not sure, because I know KSP1 never refers to Kerbol, the sun, as Kerbol. Kerbol was just a fan name. The game only ever refers to it as the sun. But in KSP2, I know for a fact they do actually call it Kerbol. So I guess KSP2 could be considered an elevated fan game at this point. But I don't know if there are any updates to KSP1 that kind of changed it to be called Kerbol. Maybe when they did like the translations, they added, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that the game never refers to the sun as Kerbol. They only ever refers to it as the sun. Similarly, this was it's not really a debate anymore, but back in my day, right, there was always a big debate about how you spell mun. Or I should say, how you pronounce the mun. Some people pronounce it moon, some people pronounce it mun. The correct answer is mun, by the way, and I would die on this hill. But one of the reasons why people say it's pronounced moon is because on the mun or bust like title screen, the mun is spelt with an umlaut. So an umlaut is like a U with two little dots above it, so it kind of looks like a smiley face, I guess. And an umlaut U is pronounced oo. So that's kind of makes sense. Oh, that's why we spell it that. So it's spelled differently, but it's pronounced the same. But again, in the game, that little crash lander scene on the title screen that sometimes appears, that's the only place where the mun is spelt like M umlaut U-N, like, you know, moon. Everywhere else in the game, it's spelt M-U-N. So it's like in like the science files and when you're on the map screen, it's always spelled M-U-N. So there you are. Two little fun facts. They are facts. I will not be accepting any misinformation in the comment section down below about the pronunciation of the word mun. Thank you very much. Now here we are. What a strange line of conversation I've been having whilst we've been on our way to, I was about to say Duna for some reason, but now we're at Dres. We've made it here, and so we can have a look at the planet. There it is. I guess you can't really see the differences from this high up, but yeah, things are definitely in motion. So the first thing we're going to do is detach our kind of scanning satellite. There it is. We're going to get ourselves clear of the vehicle. Now, I packed in way too much fuel. We got so much Delta V. Over 2 kilometers per second of Delta V was stupid amount. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I'm really sorry, guys. I apologize. Don't like the video, guys. Dislike the video, okay? And you know, I'll try and be better next time. So I tried to do a scan, and it says that we need to be in a polar orbit between 25 kilometers and 690 kilometers. So we're in a polar orbit right now, but our periapsis and apoapsis are not kind of meeting the criteria. So I decided to go for 500 kilometers as an orbit, because that just seemed like a nice, good round number. So our periapsis is more or less correct. Now we're going to just burn retrograde at periapsis, although our control points are reversed, so kind of retrograde and prograde are reversed on the nav ball indicators. Get ourselves nice and circulars. There we are. Not a lot of difference between us. There's about 600 meters difference between apoapsis and periapsis height, so pretty happy with that. And look at that. Now we can run an ore survey and we can send it back to the Kerbal Space Center. So now going forward, we now know the best place to send a mining station. I think I'm probably going to make it a mobile mining station, so if we do deplete the resources in a certain area, we can just move it. But you know, I'll have a little look at the results of the ore scan. So now that the satellite is deployed, the main part of the mission, well, I know I said the satellite was kind of the main part of the mission for my space agency, but the main part presumably why you clicked on this video, right, is going down to the surface of Dres. I got so excited, guys, as you can see. I time warped past Periapsis on my first pass. So we had to warp around again for another attempt. And here we are. And Apapsis and Periapsis have switched. We're still kind of high up though, aren't we? So I dropped Periapsis and Apapsis down a little bit. I think I went for 100,000 meters. So I guess 100 kilometers. It's kind of high, but yeah, whatever. We've got loads of Delta V in our lander because I wanted to kind of land in 2 different spots. So we're going to transfer 4 Kerbals into the lander. And then we're going to go ahead and initiate our landing sequence. So Auto SAS immediately flipped us around upon detachment. Luckily, our solar panels didn't get struck against the mothership. So that was good, I guess. So then it was going to be a case of, it was kind of a weird folding away animation, wasn't it, of those solar panels? So now it's going to be a case, once we've unfurled our little communications dish just here, it's going to be a case of going to the map screen and trying to pick a spot to land on Dres. So there's the new revamped Dres below. So it's still grey, but the surface is much more interesting. It's hard to tell on the map screen, but the mountain ranges, look at that little scar of the mountain ranges there. The mountain ranges and the canyons are all kind of much more dramatic. Now I'm going to leave the map screen, and look, Dres looks really weird and blurry beneath us. So I quickly did a quick save and a quick load, and it didn't fix the issue. And time was a bit tight when making this video, and I couldn't figure out what I'd done wrong. Is this like a known glitch with Proxima's Beta Dres? That doesn't seem right. I think I must have installed the mod incorrectly somehow, or I've got some other mod that's conflicting with it. I'm not sure. I need to look at this into more detail. If you happen to know the fix, do let me know in the comments. But yeah, sorry about that. But here I am on the map screen, just having a little look, see if I can pick a good little interesting landing spot. Whenever I go to Dres in stock KSP, I always go to the Dres Canyon, because why would you go anywhere else? I thought maybe instead of going to one of the Dres Canyons, which as you can see from the map screen, there are now lots of them, I'll go for a mountain range. And I saw this little, like, it looked, well, I wasn't sure if it was like a cliff or a canyon. So let's go there. It's really hard. Well, I was going to point it out on the map screen, but now I can't see. Oh, no, there it is. Bang, there's an arrow. That's where we're aiming for, that little kind of squiggle there. So good. It might have still been hard to see, especially if you're watching this like on TV or a big computer screen, but hopefully you can kind of see where my orbital line, I guess it's not an orbital line anymore, is it? Our collision course line is kind of aiming for that kind of weird squiggle. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, it looks more like a big cliff. Look at these big mountain ranges. And the surface of Dres is a little bit more vibrant than stock Dres is. It looks a lot closer to the color of KSP2 Dres, that kind of yellowish hue to it, I guess. And there we are. So now I'm just trying to pick a spot to land on. So I figured maybe not the areas with like the, how do I word this? Where there's like those dense textures. Well, I want places with like the lighter, smoother textures, because that indicates a smooth surface we can land on. We don't really want to land on a sheer cliff, especially when this mod advertises having much more dramatic cliff faces and mountain ranges than stock Dres. We kind of don't want to land on said dramatic cliff / side of mountain. So yeah, so here I'm just steering the lander down. We have obviously overshot that cliff that I wanted to check out, so what I'm going to do is we'll land here first of all, run our science experiments, deploy our rover, go for a little drive and all that good stuff, and then we'll take off and fly over to the other spot, the cliff that I wanted to check out. Well, again, I wasn't sure if it was a cliff or a canyon, so let's just explore together as creator and viewer. I mean, it's obviously not like it's not live, is it, right? So it's not quite like that, but you know, you can kind of see how my mind works, if that's something you would have wanted to see. But there we are, we've touched down on the surface of Dres, grip pads holding us like beautifully. Like if we had landing legs right now, we'd slowly start sliding down kind of 315 degrees down this little slope here. So it's really good that we've got those grip pads to keep us in place. Now look at this amazing rover deployment. We can make it go radial out, line it up, and then I changed the control point, and then Auto SAS flipped us over. And because we haven't got any connection to the KSC, we could only orient this ship using Auto SAS. So I had to frantically try and find an orientation that got it flipped up, disabled SAS, and there we are. The rover is now in place. Obviously, we can't drive the rover in this state because it has no connection to the KSC, but the idea is we're going to get a Kerbal on the rover, and then the Kerbals will drive it, so it doesn't need a connection to the Kerbal Space Center. Like the Apollo lunar rovers can't drive around on the moon, can they? Because they needed an astronaut driving them. And the same thing here. And there is the deployment of our Laon Aerospace flag. What I also did when we landed was I ran our science experiment bay. We got lots of experiments on the rover, and then just the Science Junior on the lander itself. But yeah, I really like how this lander came out, you know. I I always, like I said in the build time-lapse part of this video, I always try and come up with kind of different lander designs because it is super easy to get stuck in the same kind of way of building landers the same way every single time. And I thought this was kind of a cool little way. It's kind of a bit like Blue Origin's proposed lunar lander, where the crew cockpits and all that are at the bottom of the stack rather than at the top, so that it's easier for them to disembark the lander and, you know, reach the surface, rather than SpaceX's solution having that big elevator that takes them down the massive side of the lunar starship. I quite like Blue Origin's idea. And the fuel tanks are at the top with the engines right high up, so they're kind of not getting hit by any regolith being kicked up from the surface for this lander's design. So yeah, we've got those giant solar panels as well because we are very far away from the sun. So solar electric generation is not as good as it would be at, say, Kerbin. So I thought I'd bring some bigger solar panels that I would normally use to ensure that we remain fully charged. And I accidentally pressed the ground button, the gear button I should say, so flipped over. I always had a little reaction wheel to rovers. You don't need them. In fact, they actually make it harder to control. You can see I disabled the wheel authority just there, but it means that if your rover flips over, you can just enable the SAS wheel and you can self-right yourself. And now we're going to go for a little drive. And I dislike rovers in KSP1 and KSP2. I hate them more in KSP2 because I was like, guys, you should have fixed this. Come on. But KSP1, they just suck. Like, they just slide around. It's like driving on ice. And then we crashed. Then the I don't know if it's the Kraken or the Auto SAS was freaking out. But either way, look how it's just sort of dancing across the surface. I was watching it and I was like, I hate rovers in KSP. So this is what I did. I got Valentika, started flying rover, and then I immediately thought, you know what? I don't actually care. We don't need to use the rover. I like the challenge of trying to design a rover that can fit into the profile of a lander, and then the lander itself is capable of carrying the rover down to the surface of wherever you're going. But beyond that, I don't actually care for them very much. They have their uses. They're really useful for rescue missions, especially on somewhere like Laythe or Juno or Eve, where there's an atmosphere to contend to, so it's a little bit tricky to get an exact, to land your rescue ship exactly next to your stranded ship. So then a rover can be quite helpful to kind of transport Kerbals between the two sites, especially for Eve, because Eve is so difficult to land on accurately because you need such a massive launch vehicle to get back to Eve orbit. So I think for all my Eve rescue videos, I used a rover, and good thing we had 2 solar panels on that rover, on the lander, because good old Bob Kerman there has obliterated the solar panel. I could have brought a repair kit with me, but, you know, I like to live dangerously. I also, once again, forgot to bring EVA Science. I really need to have some sort of, I might 3D print like a big sign above my model saying, don't forget to bring EVA Science, because it's a really nice thing to do. They swing the little golf club or smash a little banana on the surface. It adds a little bit of personality to my videos, because my videos often have too much personality, but it's my personality there's too much of. It'd be nice to bring in someone else's personality, like Bill Kerman's, where he smashes the banana on the surface in the name of science. But now it's time to re-embark the lander. Valentina and Bob are upside down, because that's just how I designed this lander. I liked the aesthetic of having the 2 kind of front windows of the lander cans look symmetrical, if that makes sense. It kind of looks like just a singular piece rather than just the same piece stacked one on top of the other. But obviously the consequence of that is that the Kerbals above are upside down. Not really a big deal for most of the time, right? Most of the time they're in microgravity where, you know, they it doesn't matter basically. And also it's quite beneficial to have them kind of stacked, you know, top to bottom like that, so that the upper this is really hard to word. The upper hatch. So the hatch on top, at the top of the can, they're touching each other, right? So the Kerbals can transfer between the 2 modules via the hatches, right? Because the top lander can is flipped upside down, so that its upper hatch is now below and aligned perfectly with. Wow, how do I have a career doing commentary? That was awful. I've got a degree. What was that sentence? I'm not even gonna. Should I stop commentating and listen back? I don't know if I have the strength. I was just saying that, and I was thinking, this is terrible. This is absolutely awful. What on earth am I talking about? But we can move on. Something has happened in the video that I can now pivot to and talk about that instead. We're now flying to a second landing site because I wanted to check out that thing that I spotted on the map screen, where, you know, the thing where I wasn't sure if it was a cliff or a canyon, which, as it turns out, it's a giant cliff face. So we go check it out a little bit closer. We've got these little rocks. I believe these rocks are part of Parallax Continued. I'm not 100% sure. They could be part of the Better Dres mod, but in the Better Dres mod description, it says it supports Parallax. So I'm assuming these are from the Parallax mod. I don't really remember if Parallax adds those specific rock formations in stock Dres, because I visit it so infrequently. And again, when I usually visit it, it's often like the Dres Canyon. I don't go to the surface, so I don't see what the surface scatter looks like. So yeah, we will be going checking out one of those rock formations there. What I did first of all was I got Bob Kerbin, because obviously he's our scientist Kerbal, which means he can go out and restore our Science Junior experiments. We can run the experiments all over again, and also we can just run the experiments from EVA as well, to save us having to switch back to the lander and kind of run the experiments that way. And there we are, staring at the ground just there. So interested, he might even gather a surface sample, if I remembered to do that. I'm pretty sure I did, but who knows, I might not have. And now we can go to this rather suspicious looking rock just here. Really looks like something, right? And that's, of course, I'm referring to Pride Rock from The Lion King, a 2019 film directed by Jon Favreau. I've heard there's like an animated version in the 90s, but like I googled this, and it's like a cartoon. It's like old and boring. Whereas the 2019 one, that's like a documentary. It's like real. So why would you want to watch the cartoon? I don't understand. So I refuse to watch the cartoon Lion King. Okay, I realize now I've actually probably angered many people in the comments. So I'm just going to now say that was a joke. But yes, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think I said this in the last video, that there's always like a 25-minute, half an hour cutoff point where my commentary starts devolving away from kind of sanity, and I just start talking about the most utter nonsense. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Is that a glitch? The way the solar panel folds away. Because whenever I use these big solar panels, like the big straight ones, they fold away so weird. Like, they extend out normally, but when they retract, they do this weird, like, arcing movement. And at first I thought this was a glitch. Like, no, maybe every so often when you retract them, they do that. But it seems like every single time I use them, they do that. To the point where I'm like, is this just a glitch that was never fixed? Or is that genuinely how they're supposed to fold away? Or like, what are they modeled on? Like, obviously they are based on a real, or at least I was about to say a real spaceship or a spacecraft, or at least a real spacecraft technology. And maybe it is supposed to fold away like that. I'm not sure. Maybe someone in the comments can say, oh, it's based on blah, blah, blah. And this craft solar panels did fold away like that. I don't know. I don't think they would, though. Because yeah. Interesting. Anyway, I was always curious. So as you can see, I'm just plotting a little encounter with our target. When we initially got our target nodes appeared, the target vessel was behind us. So we needed to be able to let it catch up. So I made sure our apoapsis was much higher than our mothership's orbit, so that we would be entering a higher orbit, therefore a slower orbit, thus giving our target time to catch up with us. And as you can see, I was then able to just do a bit of a inclination change to get a nice close encounter with our target vessel, which is of course our mothership with, I believe her name is Jean Kerman, who's just sort of, making sure things are running tickety-boo on the mothership. And there it is, coming into view just there. So we're going to do a little burn retrograde relative to our target, kill off all of our velocity, and then just go ahead and burn towards it. This is just going to do the loud, lazy method of docking, where we just have both vessels line up with each other and just fly them towards each other. Nice and easy, nice and lazy. Like I say, after the 25-30 minutes, my commentaries, I struggle, And today is even more of a struggle because it's quite late for me. I'm recording this video at 7:10. Like right now in this very moment, it is 7:10 on Friday. And I intend to get this video edited and all that and uploaded tonight for publication tomorrow. Because, I got to edit the Patreon version of this video after this and get that rendering. Like, the video takes a few hours to render because obviously it's 4K, there's color correction, and so, it takes a while to render, basically. And if there are any mistakes in my commentary, I do check for anything too egregious. Even though I do miss things half the time, like, oh my gosh, what did I say the other week? I said something like, oh, the closest star system. No, I said, gosh, what did I say? I said something like the closest galaxy to the Milky Way is Proxima Centauri. And there's a lot to unpack there, and I somehow didn't even spot that I said that when I was proof watching. I guess I proof watch at like 2 times speed because I just have to get it done quickly. If I need to re-render, I can do it immediately. But gosh, that's probably the worst brain fart I've ever made on this channel. I mean, now Matlan historians below can say, oh, actually, back in 2019, you said this horrendously incorrect thing. But, you know, as I do try and check for anything too bad. Occasionally just things fall through the gaps, I think. Because, like, the sentence wasn't completely incorrect, right? Okay, well, actually, yes, the sentence of Proxima Centauri is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. Now, objectively, that is incorrect on essentially every single level, but kind of like it's the closest star. Well, you know, what did I say? Did I say Alpha Centauri or Proxima Centauri? Either way, you know, it's the closest star system to the Sol system, which is where we live in Earth, and you know, Andromeda is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. And I don't know. I don't really know what I was thinking, what went wrong. But that's what I'm saying. Just the craziness of these long commentaries. It just gets to me, and I just have these brain farts. And yeah, and I mean, the reason why I'm editing this so late is kind of my fault. I went mountain biking today, and I was like, I'll just go mountain biking, and I'll just edit this in a big panic at the end of the day when I get back. And so yeah, but it was a good day. You know, it was autumn, fresh autumn leaves on the ground, crunching as I rode my bicycle through the woodland. We saw some pheasants. We saw some deer. There was a fallen tree. There was a storm recently, and it closed off one of the fire roads. That was a bit annoying. But I got an e-bike. Oh my gosh, guys! If you're a mountain biker, get an e-bike. It's life-changing. People always say, like, "Oh, what is the point? Like, surely you go mountain biking for the exercise, right?" And I say, no. Mountain biking is just about going down the hill really fast. The worst part of mountain biking is going back up the hill. Like, you slog up for like hours and hours just for like a 90-second descent. And then you do it all over again. Like, e-bikes for road bikes, I get less, because, like, road cycling is like, yeah, you do it for exercise, right? Unless you're commuting, but I don't really think that's the same sort of discipline as road cycling. Road cycling is like, yes, Lycra, aero helmet, ride around the roads really fast. And like, that's an exercise thing, right? But mountain biking, commuting, e-bikes, I'm definitely joined the dark side of this. Now, do you remember back in the ancient days of about half an hour ago, I said that I made a bit of a blunder when designing this craft, in that I thought the 2.5 meter heat shield would sufficiently shield our re-entry module from the heat of re-entry. But as you can see, well, as you're about to see, that wasn't actually the case. So we're coming in with a periapsis height of just over 30 kilometers, so fairly low, I guess, but still not too low. We should be having enough. And we're not coming in too fast. Less than 4,000 meters per second, which is pretty good for interplanetary missions. But as you can see, oh no! Oh no! Both vessels exploded. It was bad. So I luckily had a quick save. So I reloaded and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I to do here? Have I just wasted hours and hours? It wasn't hours and hours. Did I just waste a huge portion of my life filming this to no avail? Well, I thought, okay, we're going to try again. This time, I've raised our periapsis to about 44 kilometers. We're going to detach the lander just there, but we're going to leave the rest of the vessel attached. We're going to fire up our nuclear engines to decelerate us as much as possible, and we're going to use the lower parts of the ship as an ablative heat shield. So the tanks are all exploding and kind of being sacrificed to protect the precious crew module. So yeah, nuclear engines and nuclear fuel now exploding in the upper parts of the atmosphere. Make of that what you will. But as you can see, it seems to be working. We're now ascending, and yeah, things are still exploding, but the ship has by and large survived, and the apoapsis height indicator on the Kerbal Engineer readouts is now showing that we are captured in Kerbin orbit. So at this point, I was very excited. So like, we're going to be all right. It should be okay. Because our re-entry speed now, we've got less, I'm doing the air quotes thing, ablator here, because most of the ship is now gone. But we're coming in at much slower speeds. So we should be able to survive. So now we're coming in for pass number 2. So pointing retrograde. We're using our RCS thrusters of the command module as well to try and keep ourselves pointing retrograde, because as you can see, this is kind of an asymmetrical vessel at this point, so it's going to want to flip out of control. So the little RCS jets are going to help keep us pointing retrograde as long as possible. And now we're descending once again. Oh, we're starting to flip. But by using SAS, you can see our electric charge is rapidly draining, and our remaining monopropellant, I'm able to sort of keep spinning the craft so that no one part is facing the brunt of the re-entry heating for too long that it explodes. And look at this. And this is my first attempt at kind of my idea for an ablative heat shield using the rest of the craft. Like, I didn't have to do any multiple attempts, even though it looks like we came super close to parts exploding. Yeah. hyped, I guess. And now we're coming in at very low orbital speeds. So I was hoping that for our third and final pass, we will be fine to detach the commander module and just re-enter safely. Now, I wanted to make sure there were no cheats activated, because as you see, there's a little bit of probe control. Right, we were able to spin and point retrograde even though our electric charge is 0. But we have our RCS jets, and I guess they function without electricity. I guess if we've got a pilot Kerbal on board, I'm not sure. But that's why I showed the cheat menu just there to say, aha. Okay, so it's Matt. I'm Matt. How did you do that? You've not got electricity. Cheater. So just making sure that you did. Just wanted to put it out there that I wasn't using cheats. And yes, for what it's worth, I'm playing at like 100% re-entry heating. There's no finagling with settings or anything there. And there we are. We have survived. We have passed. We are now subsonic as we descend down to the water. I was looking at the biome name, save it tells us what sea we were over, but I guess it's just water. And there we are. We can detach our heat shield as well to kind of slow us down a little bit more before touchdown in the water. And are you ready? Here we go. Beautiful. Things got a little bit sketchy towards the end, but we made it back safely. And I tell you what, guys, we could not have made it back safely without the people on the right there who help support my channel here, my Patreon members and my YouTube channel members who make all of this content possible. Thank you so much. Your name is there, and if you want to see your name in lights, you can sign up using the links below, get access to ad-free videos and craft files and all that good stuff. But yes, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and again, this mod can be downloaded in the description. I really liked it. It's really... It would be nice if it could be made stock. Obviously, KSP development is not a thing anymore, but, you know, it'd be nice. But yeah, that's it.